welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, show 116 for the 7th of January, 2011. Yes, those of you with a keen sense of timbre and a knack for accents might realize this is not Richard Saunders, but this is George Hrab filling in for Richard Saunders, who is somewhere over the Pacific right now as he's on his way back to Australia. I assume he's in an airplane, but that's just an assumption, so we'll see. Let's see. This past week has been pretty huge for us skeptics. Power Balance has a class action lawsuit pending. Yay. Andrew Wakefield recently received another kick in his non-vaccinated ass. And Meryl Dorey got kicked off the radio. See? We can make a difference. Merry Christmas. But before we get to all that, there's some more interviews coming up here from TAM Australia. You know about TAM Australia. You might have heard of this little collection of skeptics. Zone reporter Maynard has a lovely chat with James Randi, Julian Morrow from the Chaser program, which is on ABC TV in Australia, Simon Singh, Rebecca Watson, and Cortney Bergin, and I think he even talks with me. Wow. Neat. All right, sit back, have a Diet Coke, or whatever you'd like. Or, no, you should have a ginger beer. Boy, do you people know how to make ginger beer. Delish. So pour yourself whatever imbibement you would enjoy, have a seat, fight back the rising floodwaters as needed, and enjoy this episode of The Skeptic Zone.
Well, I'm here at TAM Australia, and there's a guy with a really unusual name. Amazing. That is a great first name, Mr. Randi.
Yes, so I've been told. Many people refer to, in conversations, they refer to some amazing event, and I always interrupt them and say, no, that's not amazing. It's astonishing. I'm amazing, you see.
And how did you get that one as a magician? Because there's lots of names you could have got, you know, incredible, wacky, kooky, that guy over there. Why amazing?
Well, there's the insufficient. That was one that I passed up. And the
disdainful, that's a good one.
Yeah, and the clumsy, and a few things like that. But I finally settled on amazing. As a matter of fact, that's interesting because when I first entered the conjuring profession, as I prefer to refer to it, I was given all kinds of choices. There were professors, this and the great, and so-and-so, but I didn't know of any amazings. And so I decided to adopt amazing.
Wow. And what drew you to skepticality? Was it because you were a magician? You knew how a lot of illusions were made and you saw this going on?
Well, I've always been skeptical, even since I was a little kid. I doubted things that were told to me in Sunday school, and I backed out of Sunday school very early, I can assure you. I've always been skeptical. I've always been very practical and rational, and I don't know where it came from, because my family was just a regular family of real people. They weren't particularly skeptical, or they certainly weren't atheistic or anything like that. I always have been, and I don't quite know where these things come from, perhaps from other examples that I observed around me.
And there must be so many challenges over the years. There was some things you were mentioning on stage there that I find interesting. The spiritual bomb detector that you demonstrated, I found very unusual that the US government would spend money on something like that could be so easily tested and be found to be true or not.
Well, they didn't spend the money on it. They gave the money to Iran to buy them. And Iran is the agency that invested in them. The interesting thing is that the supplier from the UK of these fake rods was selling them for something like $600, and the cost went up to over $6,000 by the time they actually reached the Iraqis, because in Iraq, as with many of those Mideastern countries, everybody has to make a cut. Every time it's passed on to another official, they take their percentage and the price goes up and up and up. That's their way of doing business, and I can't have any complaints about it. It's their country. That's the way they do things. But that cost American taxpayers a huge amount of money. And I'm an American taxpayer, so I felt rather badly about that. But that's not the reason I went after it. It's because it's costing lives. It doesn't work. It doesn't detect explosives. It doesn't detect anything. It's simply a total, outright fake.
And what exactly was it? You pulled it apart. It was supposed to be a bomb detector. It had an aerial on it. It looked a bit like a high-tech dowsing rod.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's a high-tech dowsing rod, and low-tech dowsing rods don't work either. Nothing works in dowsing. That's a total farce and a delusion, an acquired delusion, but nonetheless a delusion. And all they did was they connected up a bunch of wires and meters and such, and the inside of the machine, nothing is connected up. There are electronics in there and magnets embedded in it that have nothing to do with the operation of it because there are no operating principles. It's simply a swiveled rod.
And, Randi, the US government did spend a lot of money on the MK Ultra project in the 60s and 70s where they were trying to do remote viewing. They were trying to get into the psychic situation there. Now, do you got any inside running on that? Did they get anything out of that? Are they continuing it now?
No, they got nothing out of it whatsoever. And, of course, they will continue with it because there's always some politician someplace or some commanding officer who believes in woo-woo things, and he will put an order out, yes, we will spend money on this, just in case the Russians have got it, we haven't got it. And, of course, that gets to the Russians, and the Russians say, oh, I guess we better start spending some money on it because we haven't got it. And both governments waste a huge amount of resources investigating things that were never there in the first place. Ridiculous.
And what do you reckon is the best way to approach people? Because sometimes skeptics come on a little bit hard and put people off by throwing science at people when they're in fact just trying to look for a bit of spiritual comfort in a world that sometimes seems like it's a bit desolate, that like most of our basic needs are taken care of. People are looking for a bit of spiritualism.
Yes, well, if all that people want is to feel good, that's okay, sure. But wait a minute, suppose you've got a deadly disease and there's no way that you can cure it by yourself. You don't want to go to medical help, but some quack comes down the lane and says, oh, yes, you take this magic pill, pay me X number of dollars or whatever, and it'll heal you. Now, if it only makes you feel better to be seeking that kind of a cure for your problems, then, and that's all you want, well, that's fine. Go ahead and die. That's what will happen eventually. But if you want to be better instead of just feel better, spend the money in the right direction.
And what is the future direction for the skeptical movement? You're very big on education, and some people are very scared of you going into schools and telling people godless information.
Well, we don't preach godless information, but if we're asked about it, we certainly give our opinion on it. Now, I happen to be an avowed atheist, and I've thought it out, and that's my decision. My decision is that I do not believe there is a God. I can't prove that there is no God, because I can't prove there are no unicorns, for example. I highly doubt it, and there is no evidence to show there is a unicorn anywhere or ever has been. But the same thing applies to a deity as well. There's no evidence of a deity, just a pleasant story that makes you feel better.
And when you open the paper just about every morning, no doubt you must see something that activates your woo-woo alarm, as you like to call it. And by the way, woo isn't actually a proper word yet, is it?
No, it is not, and I'm trying to make it one. Woo, spelled W-O-O, is the singular, and woo-woo is the plural, I guess, with a hyphen.
And why is that? Because ghosts might go woo, or you go woo when you hear that sort of information?
Oh, I used to use it when I was a kid, and I'm trying to get it into Webster's Dictionary, which is the standard in the United States, and perhaps Oxford might pick it up one of these days. I don't think I'll live that long, but nonetheless, I'll sort of leave it as my legacy.
Now, one of the contemporaries of yours, I'd like to bring it up briefly, because was Doug Henning, who used to make elephants disappear on American television, and he's no longer with us. And I was just looking it up, and I just happened to notice that he took the path of transcendental meditation, which is before my time, Randi. What was that all about? And did you know Doug, and did you have active arguments with each other?
I have 3 letters in my files from Doug, all of them equally sad. The last one that he wrote me was not too long before his death. But the first two were from a kid. He was only 14 and 16 at the time when he wrote those two letters asking for my autograph, and I, of course, sent him an autograph. I didn't know him at that time. Then he got to be the Doug Henning, and he rose to great prominence in the entertainment field, particularly in the conjuring field. Of course, we all knew him so well. But along the way, he picked up this transcendental meditation bug that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi had brought back to life in India, and it teaches that you can study the art of TM, as they call it, and then you can actually learn to live forever. That's one thing. You can levitate, you can float above the ground and whatnot. All kinds of nonsensical things.
But I would imagine on the face of it, meditation is a pretty calming and a nice relaxation method.
Yes, it is. Oh, sure. But I do that too. I call it taking a nap. But they call it going into a TM state. Well, call it whatever you want. Take a nap every now and then. It can't hurt. If you can afford the time and you got the place to do it, just don't sit in a puddle of water or anything else like that. But it seems to be a highly exaggerated advantage to have studied TM. The basic philosophy of TM is it's from the year 2, I think. It's from way, way back there. But the fact that it's old doesn't make it right. I think it, somewhere along the line, probably includes the idea of a flat Earth. And I have been around the world a few times. I can tell you right now, it ain't flat.
And what have you seen in the completely round and spherical Australia while you've been here? What have you been up to? What does the crazy Randi get up to at night?
Well, at night, not much. I do a lot of sleeping. At 82, that sort of falls into place. And I say, tomorrow I'll have the great pleasure of spending the day with Dick Smith. He'll come in and get me in his helicopter, and we'll fly about a bit. He's a good friend of mine, has been for 30 years now. He's a delight, an absolute delight. And, well, Richard Saunders and Barry Williams and all these folks here are delights of mine. I take a great joy in their presence. I love visiting Australia. I particularly like the people of Australia. The odd kangaroo I've tried to strike up an acquaintanceship with. It doesn't seem to work very well. But I'm always delighted to be here. I haven't been here in quite some years.
Look, James, before you go, recently you came out as being gay this year, and there was a huge so what from everyone, wasn't there? I mean, I at least would have expected people that you have rubbed the wrong way, well, in the skeptical field, for years to have come out against you or said something, but even your so-called enemies, your nemesis or whatever they may be, so what was the big resounding answer?
Yeah, well, I expected that. I did expect it. I was a little leery about it, just I wonder if it's going to backfire on me. But I had never felt it necessary to do that or even advisable to do that. All of my acquaintances, my family, anyone that I knew, my whole office and such, they all knew about this. We didn't talk about it. It wasn't anybody's business. And I wasn't trying to keep it secret. I never was. But I'm coming out with my next book within next year. It's going to be called A Magician in the Laboratory, and it's going to be largely autobiographical as well because...
Well, it's about time.
Yes, it is about time. Yeah, got to hurry along. And I thought that it would be best to sort of clear the air in that respect so that I couldn't be accused of having kept it a deep, dark secret.
And what about for younger kids at the moment that may be thinking about coming out as being gay? It's something you didn't do when you were younger, maybe because of the time. What's any advice you might have to them? Because it's difficult for anyone who's apparently normal, whatever that is.
Yes, whatever that is. Well, when I was a kid, it was almost impossible. It was very difficult back then. Everything was set against it, and I had to hide my light under a bushel, as they say in some book or other. But what did surprise me, and I'm glad you brought that up, what really totally surprised me, I didn't expect it. When I did the coming out online, as I did, I began to get email from young kids, boys and girls, who were adolescents in most cases, who thanked me for having done it and said it gave them strength to be able to do the same thing. Now, I didn't expect that. And the fact that it had that side effect is very, very gratifying to me. I'm so happy that I did it. I wish I had done it many years ago if it had given the advantage to some of these kids who wanted to come out.
And where do you think they should find their strength from to come out? Is it their friends? Is there a trusted person in the community? I mean, because we all have our different people we look up to. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Each person will have to make up their own mind on that, because sometimes the family is going to be dead set against it. We'll toss them out into the cold.
Although, oddly enough, when most people do come out, the family go, "Oh, yeah, we knew that."
yeah.
Particularly the mum.
I'm sure that's true, but you've got to evaluate to whom you're going to, on whom you're going to depend from then on, because young kids don't have their own means of doing this sort of thing. So each one has to make his or her own decision on the matter. But I'm happy that I did, if it had that effect on some adolescents.
And one last thing, I would like to ask you about some music, because Skepticism doesn't have much music going on in it, does it? Because we all talk about ideas all the time, and I'm doing a bit of a thing about the music of TAM Australia. And is there one song or music, and it doesn't even have to be a skeptical song, is there something that, always sticks in your head, Randy? What would you like to request?
Almost anything that George Hrab, sitting right over there, will come out with. He's a great find for the skeptical movement, and he has about as much hair as I have, you see. And I don't know how he does that. It's remarkable.
Okay.
But, no,
Is there a special track from George?
Oh, yes. We took lessons together. But no, he's a great musician. He's a great ad-libber, and he's a great donation to the skeptical community.
Is there one song in particular that you think really sets up George as being that guy?
No, but his version of Happy Birthday is a little raunchy. Maybe you want to ask him for that.
Thank you, the amazing Randy. And, is there any adjectives left I can have? The kind of kooky Maynard or, No?
Astonishing or astounding are fine with me, because I don't know anybody who uses them. So, but not amazing. No, that's moi.
I'm here with Julian Morrow of The Chase. I've just asked a few questions here. Any questions for him? And someone said, Julian, do Julians have an affinity with Julianne's as Simons do with Simone's? But you were just up at the Skeptics there at TAM Australia, and you were sort of talking about communicating the skeptical message without appearing a dick. That was basically the way it worked, wasn't it? Yeah.
Look, it's funny. We've found over the years that you can make fun of people and have them not feel humiliated or demeaned. We've also found that you can humiliate and demean them, and you kind of learn through trial and error. But the reality is that skeptics are trying to communicate effectively, and if by your words or simply your attitude you convey a sense of superiority or mockery, that may well limit the effectiveness of your conversation.
And how have you found working within the ABC system lately? As someone who works for the ABC and has been on the pointy end of their complaint problem before, do you think they've changed it in any way after the issue they had with you? Because comedy is really not something that is evidence-based apart from laughter.
No, that's right, yeah. Look, they haven't actually changed their policies. I think what happens is when there's a big controversy, there's like a chill effect for a while. Yeah. And we've been through that cycle a number of times. The last one, obviously, was pretty intense, and so that took a while to wear off. But I think it does wear off. Generally speaking, I find that the people who work at the ABC, although often they fear for their jobs, and given that we've got some of them sacked, that's an understandable thing, they're generally supportive. They want to do interesting and adventurous content, but they're also aware that the ABC is kind of a target in the culture war, and so they've got to cover their asses.
Would you enjoy to personally reply to these complaints yourself? Because that's what I would like to do. I would like to bypass the management and just reply to the complaints myself, but I'm not allowed to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Can you do that?
We can sometimes, although sometimes the ABC freaks out if you do that. Andrew Denton once said to me that the best way to respond to any letter of complaint is to respond by saying, "Thank you for your letter, you may be right," which is completely non-committal but doesn't really engage. The ABC Complaints Department do a great job at actually staking out the territory of why the ABC thinks that the sort of material that we put to air can and should be put to air. It's a pretty onerous job, and given the number of complaints that we get, I think that perhaps life's a bit too short to respond.
Well, that's why they have the whole department there, so you don't have to.
They do.
Because when you think about it, if you did have to reply to all the stuff, you'd be pretty busy.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to make a show.
In the audience there, I noticed that there was a few people that seemed to be asking you whether the show was just merely trying to shock and wasn't actually funny. How do you answer that kind of question? Hang on, I'll be the person. Is the chaser just trying to shock and not so interested in being funny? Thank you very much.
Yeah. Clearly, sir, that's what you believe is the answer. I mean, there are some people who just don't like offensive or crude comedy, and you're never going to be able to win them over. But if those people think that what they don't find funny is the limit of what is funny, they're making a different mistake from the one they think you're making.
And that's the common ABC complaint. It's not necessarily in comedy. It can be in any editorial area. You're talking about a topic that they don't think should be spoken about.
Yeah.
And look, I really don't like country music. I'm not big on metal, but I don't think those two genres shouldn't exist.
No, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, it's horses for courses. And we've kind of made fun of that over the years. We invented a character called Philip Harley of Adelaide, who's this kind of curmudgeonly old man who and whenever we did a complaint, we did a sketch which we thought was likely to prompt complaints, we would have this guy complaining immediately afterwards, always ending with what a waste of taxpayers' money, because that's the kind of stick that you get beaten over.
Well, there was that Canadian show that they used to end their complaints with "screw you, taxpayer."
Yeah, that's right.
Not a bad one either.
Yeah.
Now, how do you go when you see a comic that isn't funny and they ask you, "What did you think?"
I lie. I mean, sometimes if you've had time, you craft a form of words that is not technically a lie.
The one thing I've learnt not to say, and I used to say tough crowd.
Exactly. Yeah,
don't say that because that's your code.
Look, I mean, and there is a thing amongst comic performers that you know that everyone has a good day and a bad day, and also, if people are trying to be comic performers, but particularly starting off and not doing that well, they still should be encouraged. I try to say things like, gee, the audience loved that. That was great. That implies I didn't like it, but well done, congratulations. You can be positive.
Have you thought about going back to prop comedy?
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
And look, let's talk about prop comedy for a moment, because we don't see a lot of it in Australia. And Judith Lucy started as a prop comic, I believe.
And
I think she's one of the
done a lot of prop comedy. I mean, in the second year of CNN, Andrew kind of sat us down and read us the riot act about how we were going over budget and we had to have simple ideas and we couldn't be spending all this money. And the very next sketch we came up with involved a monster truck and crushing a car. And we're like, we can't say that to him, until we went in. And, of course, he loves props so much. He's like, yes, we're going to crush a car. This is going to be cool. So, yeah,
And who is your favourite comic in the world ever? Now, this is a tough question. It's like asking what's your favourite song.
No, exactly. I mean, I think probably my favourite comedians of all time are the Muppets.
Okay, favourite guest star on the Muppets.
Favourite guest star.
I was big with Liza Minnelli.
He was great.
John Cleese with the Maracas.
Cleese was fantastic. Yeah.
Liza
John
Minnelli
Denver was pretty funny. There's
Liza
so many.
Minnelli doing Copacabana, I think it was. Yep.
Excellent. Yeah, there's so many, and I've had a kid recently, so I'm watching them all again, and it's fantastic.
Isn't it great when you can have an excuse to watch kids stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because I haven't got kids, and just people think I'm weird.
No. Well, you're not weird. You're in touch with your inner child.
Now, is the tinfoil hat okay with you?
It's fantastic. It's very funny.
Leave us with where's someone or new comic we should have a look at because he's a funny guy or she's a funny guy.
Well, I really like the guys from Fear of a Brown Planet, Nazim Hussain, and I forget Amar's the other guy. Just really interesting to see Australian Islamic comedy developing. I think they're great, and I love the guys from Salam Cafe as well.
And the next time someone tells you you're not funny, even to you or any other comic, what should we say?
You may be right.
Well, I'm here with someone who's on the pointy end of scepticism. Simon Singh, how are you?
Very well indeed, very well indeed.
I had no idea that chiropractors attempted to treat anything other than backs.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was in a similar position. So 5 years ago, I just written a book about cosmology, and I knew quite a bit about cosmology, but didn't know that much about alternative medicine. And then I started hearing some weird claims and odd claims, and claims that just seemed to be too good to be true. In fact, when you looked at the evidence, they were, in fact, not backed up by any evidence whatsoever. And so I decided to write a book about alternative medicine, and eventually came to writing the chapter about chiropractic.
And through that, you ended up in court. Now, I think I've come close to court a few times by saying things, but did you in any way expect that you were actually writing something that would find you in court, costing you money?
I don't know. I've no idea. I've no idea why the chiropractors felt so touchy about this. All utterly astonished when the legal threat appeared, because it was really the last thing on our minds. The case was dropped against me, so I kind of feel vindicated. But it was a 2-year battle, and libel is a horrendous and complicated and messy and expensive and time-consuming process. So what I'm now involved with, along with a lot of other people and a lot of other organisations, and I know people here in Australia and New Zealand have been very supportive, is trying to reform the libel laws so that if somebody is sued for libel, they can afford to defend it. They can afford the time and the money to defend it. And that it's a fair justice system. At the moment, the libel laws are horrendously one-sided. So I had to fight a completely uphill battle for 2 years, and I came very, very close to losing that battle.
Is there a system in place somewhere in the world that you would point to as being the example? Because the Americans, a bit too much the other way. If you're a famous person, you can say anything about them, and, you can't have as much comeback, and that goes a bit more the other way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a spectrum. So what you've got is there are two rights here. There's my right to free speech, and there's your right to reputation. And I want to be able to say things about you, but you clearly should feel that if I'm saying something that's unfair and unreasonable and I'm defaming your reputation, you should have the right to protect it. In America, I think you could argue, and I think many people do argue, that that there's too much emphasis on free speech and not enough emphasis on the protection of reputation. In Britain, we're completely the other way around. So we're at the other end of the spectrum. We're completely anti-free speech, and reputation is prioritised, I would say. England just needs to move up the scale. We need to move up towards where places like Canada and Australia are, where there are more reasonable and fair libel laws, and maybe towards the American system. But I think you're right. Some people would argue that the American system is too pro-free speech, but I think that's up for debate.
Gee, Simon, I'm just thinking you want to change the English legal system. Now, I'm trying to think of people who've successfully done that within their lifetime. Well, there's probably about 3, isn't there?
Well, I'm not doing it on my own, and I wasn't the first person to argue for it. So.
It's like it hasn't got any wheels on it. It hasn't even got rollers. You can't even drag it. It seems like it's a tough one.
When people think of libel, they think of Sunday tabloid newspapers criticising celebrities.
Celebrities, yeah. It's usually someone's reputation that might mean a lot to them, but it's not got a societal thing as such.
It's about tittle-tattle and newspapers maybe being irresponsible, and it's a kind of dirty end of journalism. What the public didn't realise was that libel also affects scientific free speech. And if medical researchers can't speak openly about their concerns regarding a new pharmaceutical, then the public don't get to hear those concerns, and the public only hear half the story. But the fear instilled in people is so much that they just won't fight these cases. It's such a one-sided battle. You just assume you're going to lose from the get-go.
And even when you win, you lose with the costs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So if you lose a libel case, you're going to lose £1 million. If you win a libel case, you're probably going to lose £100,000. So when winning means losing, then why bother fighting in the first place?
So does that mean you really watch your mouth even at dinner parties now?
It scared the hell out of me. It really made me physically nauseous. Getting a libel threat is just an awful thing. So, it's made me incredibly conscious about the threat of libel, but it's also made me aware of the fact that, you've got to speak out, because if you're a journalist and you can't speak out, what's the point of being a journalist?
Well, look, to finish up with, let's give you a free kick. You can say anything you like about me in this open forum here. You can libel or slander me onto this MP3 player right now, so go your hardest, and I promise no action will be taken.
No, I'm a nice guy. I wouldn't say.
Okay.
I might take it up later.
If you catch my haircut, you'll come up with something pretty fast. Do you have your own little bit of non-evidence-based, let's call it woo in your life? I mean, do you like lights in the sky are interesting? Do you ever look up astrology? Do you take multivitamins when you feel you're getting sick? Is there anything that's not completely evidence-based, that's just in the background of your life?
I don't think so.
Any superstitions? Would you walk under a ladder?
Yeah, I think so.
Black cat wouldn't bother you?
No, I'm a bit allergic to them, but that's white cats, brown cats, all cats.
Well, that's evidence-based.
Yes, yeah. No, I'm not particularly superstitious.
Okay. But you are very careful of lawyers.
Yeah.
Well, look, now, I've got a couple of skeptics here. What's your name?
Cortney Bergin.
And who the hell are you?
I'm Rebecca Watson.
Okay, rightio. Now, as I've mentioned, 9/11 was an inside job. Doesn't really get many people laid. I've seen most of the people in, what is that movie? The one that was released recently. Oh,
You have to be more specific.
They've made a couple of versions of it.
You have to be more specific. Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay, right. The Planet of the Apes, where they claimed that it's all a big inside job. Loose Change. I've seen the people in Loose Change. They aren't dating a lot.
Right.
Okay, now and the Warren Commission? That's never got anyone laid except the people who were in it back in the 60s. What is the approach to skeptical girls? What's the best way to endear yourself to them? Is there a topic? Should we study neuroscience? I know it's a pretty wide, varied question with no correct answer, but this is where wide-ass speculation comes into its own.
Well, what did Jay say to you to really win your heart, Courtney?
Yeah, this is evidence-based then.
Yeah, that is evidence-based. Yeah. Well, Jay actually asked me out for about 6 months, and I kept saying no. So I guess it's tenacity.
No, that's only going to encourage the creepy stalkers.
Damn. You're right.
My advice was going to be don't be a creepy stalker. Apparently that worked on Courtney.
So where does the line between persistence and creepy stalker start and stop? Us guys in a
restraining order.
Humor.
Skeptical girls, they're smart and funny. And awesome, so you just should be the same. That's all. It's a simple combination,
okay,
you know.
Right. Well, you see, you're married. How did it work with you?
Well, I was. We met at a skeptics conference, so I would recommend you go to as many skeptics conferences as you can.
Right. Well, considering that women only make up about 10%, that's a lot of conferences.
No, I think they're at least 35 to 40% at this one.
At this point,
yeah.
Okay.
And all you have to do is be the coolest guy in the room, which honestly not that difficult here. Not that difficult. Low-hanging fruit. I'm the world's tallest midget.
Okay, so let's go. Be physically tall, persistence, and humour. Are those the three pillars of fire?
I would recommend don't take yourself so seriously. I think the problem I see with a lot of skeptics is that they get really wound up about a particular issue, and that's all they want to talk about. Just relax and let the conversation go where it will, and just be cool.
And you recommend that us men listen?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Have to listen.
Didn't that go without saying? I should have gone without saying, but yeah.
Okay. And, right, okay. Well, look, I'll go put that into practice now. And any marriages or babies that come out of this, it's both your fault.
All right, great.
Okay.
Great.
Amazing is taken by Randi. Now, what adjective would you like?
Oh, gosh, splendiferous, I think.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Well, I'd like you to give a message to my friend Warren Coleman, who was very excited that I'd be meeting you. Warren has worked on a number of movies in Hollywood. Have you got any project you'd like to try and float to him, Rebecca?
Yeah, I want a cartoon based on my life. I want it to be like I'm a superhero and I travel around the world.
And what will your powers be?
Well, the powers of deduction and awesomeness and invisibility.
Oh, so you would have something in common with Wonder Woman. So would you have an outfit that's like as blatantly sexist as that? And would you have a drug dependency problem like the actress developed later on? Have you got all that planned? Have you thought of that far through?
I have, actually.
Wow.
And my outfit would be actually my everyday look, which is a nerdy T-shirt with some sort of ironic saying on it, jeans, and those big boots that are good for really like kicking. Can I curse?
Yeah, you can.
They're really good for kicking ass. My kick-ass boots.
Yeah, the explicit label. Now, what is the thing because you huge skeptic, what is the thing that really gets your goat? As the man who stared at things that gets your goat, what's the thing that really makes you go off? You have to leap to its defense.
I'm really passionate about women's health and the politics that keep women down in general.
Like those ads that keep you fresh down there.
Exactly. Douche is one of my most popular topics, actually. I used it as a really good example of a product that's completely pseudoscientific.
Invented.
It serves no purpose at all, and it actually can harm people. And that's the sort of thing that skeptics usually go after. But douche, not a common topic.
Well, see, I didn't think that was people still took that stuff seriously. But then again, I didn't think power balance bands would be big in the 21st century either.
There was an ad in Women's Day in the U.S. just a few months ago that said it was tips on how to ask for a raise at work. And number one was douching. I don't know where you work, but
maybe if your boss is into that, and I have visited Tokyo where that is popular.
Right, right. Maybe it's time to find a new job. That's the first step.
That is pretty wild. And do men get uncomfortable when you start talking about this, because it's a subject we obviously don't have first-hand knowledge of?
Yeah, and that's what I love doing. I love saying the word douche and watching all the men in the audience just sort of shrink back into their seats. And also vagina. Vagina is a really great word to say.
Wow. So apart from going out and fighting the battle for dirty words there, what is your other area you like to work in? I mean, obviously, you wouldn't share much with anti-vaccination people, I imagine.
Oh, I hate the anti-vaxxers. And in fact, we just destroyed them this week on Skeptic. They were trying to launch an ad campaign that would be in American movie theaters during one of the biggest weeks of the year for people to go out and watch movies, the week from Thanksgiving on. And they were going to run these ads, and we launched a campaign just completely viral telling AMC, the big chain, to not run these ads, that they were dangerous misinformation. AMC listened to us, and they pulled the ads at the last minute so no one saw them.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Look, and where does William Shatner sit in your life?
On my lap, usually.
Wow. Now, are you a big fan of the man? I mean, he's not exactly a feminist, really.
Well, no, but he's just a walking punchline. How could you not love the Shat?
Yeah. No, have you ever listened to the Look at His Butt podcast, the Butt Girls? It's all about William Shatner and sex toys.
No, but I will now.
Okay, yeah, Look at His Butt. Check it out, Rebecca. I think you'd probably enjoy it. And they have a potty mouth as well.
They sound like my kind of girls.
Well, before I leave you alone, because you've got so many fans around you and you've got 4 full bottles of wine behind you, although I have actually, even though I was assured you were a shill from Big Pharma, you haven't been able to sell me drugs even once.
Well, you haven't asked.
Oh, okay, we'll do that in just a second. But what do you think of us Australian skeptics? In what way are we different, or do you just have to be nice to us in interviews?
No, I love the Australian skeptics because you're in people's faces, you don't back down. Very strong grassroots activism that's quite inspiring, actually. So I'm hoping that Americans can pay attention to what the Australians are doing, like with the Anti-Vax Network, and take them down.
Well, see, I'm a bit of a token skeptic. I'm a fellow traveller with them because I like listening to the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, but I equally love the No Agenda show, which is completely off the planet. And I like the way my brain explodes. And most people wouldn't listen to both those shows on their pod.
I've met a number of people. In the U.S., we have Art Bell, Coast to Coast.
Oh, yeah.
And I know a lot of skeptics who love listening to that. And I do, too, actually. I mean, that's how my first experience with paranormal stuff was on the side of wanting to believe in it, because it's fun. It's really cool to think about ghosts and goblins and psychics and things like that. So it's normal.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. Well, I feel a bit, Rebecca Watson said I'm normal. I don't know quite how to take that. What's your biggest challenge before you get on the plane? Customs?
My biggest challenge, is getting all these drugs through customs. I mean,
you couldn't sell them. I mean, you got to have them. You got to have the Ritalin there, the dexamphetamine there. It's got to be quite clear.
Well, there's just the stuff I need for on the plane. It's a long ride.
Most people sleep on the plane. I wouldn't think that would help.
Well, I have trouble.
You're going to be flying it by the time you get back.
That's right. And
Rebecca, is there somewhere you want to point us as a bit of a plug?
Well, Skeptic is skeptic.org, and also theskepticsguide.org. I also have curiosityaroused.com, and I occasionally am on a podcast called Little Atoms, littleatoms.com.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, and get some sleep, and don't ever shut that potty mouth of yours.
Will do.
Oh, man, and the name that's come up a long time, and a man I've never met before, TAM Australia, is George Hrab. George, it's all over now. There's no need to wear the suit. You can calm down. I think you pretty much got tonight in the bag with a few ladies or men or whatever you want, really.
One from column A and 4 from column B, and we'll see what happens just to keep the party interesting. Yes.
Now, I spoke to you at the beginning of the whole thing, and by the end of it there, what do you think? How have the Australians accounted ourselves?
I think you've carried yourselves very well. Very, very well. It struck me, and I know this sounds more than I know I'm supposed to be all snarky, but it really is wonderful. It really, to hear the greeting that the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, my friends, received when they were introduced, to realize that these are people that are on the literal opposite side of the planet from us, that know them and that feel the influence of the novellas and Evan and Rebecca, and it is so amazing, and that word keeps coming up.
But do you think it's the nature of podcasting in some ways? Because you've got your own geologic podcast, and people listen to you when, it's not just stuff that's on in the background. You've got it in your ears, or you're driving to work, or you're doing something, and you're thinking a bit, I don't know, it's almost like you're more of a friend to us than the normal broadcast radio, because it's on there anyway. I don't know. Do you think there's more personal?
Absolutely. It's a very intimate relationship.
And because none of you are allegedly broadcast professionals, you're doing it for reasons other than you're making money as a broadcaster. You're doing it because that's what you like doing.
Right. passion comes through, and I think that's what people appreciate and latch onto. And it's a one-sided friendship, but it is a friendship. And I consider the people that listen to my show my friends, the same way that the SG people do, and the same way that anyone who the Skeptic Zone people do as well.
Okay, one last question. What's the weirdest shit thing that's happened to you while you've been here? What you go, man, what's this all about? Has anything spun you out while you've been here?
Oh.
And if it hasn't, we haven't really tried, but I thought there might have been something. I mean,
oh my goodness.
For goodness sake, you're on a boat with a bunch of skeptics last night in the middle of the harbour, weren't you?
Right. Yeah, that was quite fun. That was quite lovely. For some reason, the men's room here in the Masonic Temple, even though geometry seems to be their main focus, they haven't figured out how to design two doors to open together. So that has been the strangest thing so far, I think.
And that's probably happened to you a few times, hasn't it?
Yeah. So other than that, I think we're pretty good.
Oh, look, I'm over in the special dietary corner, and over here we have Dave the Happy Singer and fellow travellers. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And what have you thought of the conference here? It's the first one. You know, you can be an outspoken critic of stuff, and we like that about you. How's it been for you?
Yeah, well, I'm known to be a little bit critical, but any of the mishaps have just paled in comparison with the quality of the speakers and the amazing community that's here, and that's really all that matters. Like the social side is, for me, even more important than the speakers, because ultimately you can read the speakers' blogs, you can see their, listen to their podcasts, you can see them, most of them you can see them speaking on YouTube. And there's an extra buzz from seeing them live, but what really makes it so wonderful for me is to be together with so many like-minded friends over the weekend, to really fit in somewhere.
So it's about the karaoke, is that what you're saying?
It's about the karaoke as much as it is about the serious business side. You know, it's.
Is there something you learnt from doing that and hanging out with them? Is there something you didn't realise from having so many like-minded people together?
I didn't realise. I didn't realise I'm so average.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I mean, you thought you were out there because people at work avoid you,
yeah,
and that sort of thing. But here, I'm just surrounded by incredible geniuses who know such arcane things about all kinds of things. You you speak to. It's just dripping with astronomers and medics and all these fascinating people. And I'm in a room where, if I wanted to know something about neuroscience, I can go over there and I can speak to Steve Novella. Yeah. If I want to know something about astronomy, I can go over there and I can speak to Pamela Gay. And it's phenomenal. Now, is there one fact you've learnt that's really blown your mind here? A lot of people at the astronomy lecture said that they didn't know about the P universe and that stuff.
That really stood out for me as well, was Pamela's speech, not only in terms of its inspiration, but also the fact that crowdsourcing has been such benefit to the research that they've been doing, and like discovering the blue ellipticals and the P-shaped galaxy things was pretty cool for the internet.
Look, I'm sort of trying to develop the attitude that a lot of people have to skeptics, and a lot of it can be summed up with skeptics are considered crackpots with evidence that people don't really want to follow because it's too hard.
There's a constant debate, isn't there, about this word skeptic? I mean, for a start, half of the people who call themselves skeptics aren't. You've got the climate skeptics, for example, who are often just nutty, not even trying to follow evidence. They're just doubters, they're denialists, they're cranks. And of course, then there's the... We struggle sometimes then with the massive overlap there is with the atheism, and the fact that so many of us are also outspoken atheists doesn't mean that skepticism's about atheism. It just means that so many of us happen to be both and happen to care about both. I don't know what to do about that. I think one of the nicest phrases to describe us is freethinker. But then, how free is free? You want to limit yourself to the evidence. That doesn't mean that anything goes,
But then you start thinking 60s and like swinging stuff and running around nude, because the free thinker has a bit of a 60s.
Yeah, exactly. It does this kind of, oh great, I'm a thought swinger. I'm just going to think all kinds of crazy thoughts. Bring it on. Yeah. Critical thinker, I think, is quite a good one. But again, critical has got a negative meaning as well, hasn't it?
So where to from here? Everyone's had a big conference. Everyone's going rah-rah. Where do you use that energy now?
Well, I'd be very surprised if TAM Australia doesn't happen again, if not next year, then in a couple of years' time. I've got no inside knowledge on that, but it's been an overwhelming success, so I think...
So you're the happy singer, which is kind of like the amazing Randi. Have you thought of any other adjectives? I've gone with the inconsistent Maynard, because people can't expect too much. Have you thought of putting another adjective in there?
In my own name or in someone else's name?
Well, in someone else's name, that's a liable thing. But, in your own name, happy's pretty good. But
happy. Well, Dave the inadequate singer. The more time I spend around these amazing people, the more... there's two ways of looking at it. When you meet somebody who's utterly awesome, you can either try and get better yourself, or you can just give up. And I always try and do the first one.
So inspiring.
Yeah.
Dave the inspired singer.
Inspired singer. That's probably the best word to describe what the weekend's been like. It's been inspirational. I'm very good friends with the drunken madman, Jason Brown, and he's always spurring me on to do better
which
things.
means you're probably off your face right now. You are.
Always. It's just fabulous, and he's always spurring me on to do something even funnier or even more insightful. He won't let me relax. He's always raising the bar on what I've got to do to compete. It's just great fun. It's been an inspiring weekend. And
well, I'll let you get back to having your bar raised.
I can't wait to get to the bar. Take it.
And what about you? Who we got here, and what are you doing?
This is Jason Brown, drunken madman from Twitter. I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, to be frank.
Yeah, you can be critical, and we would expect anyone in the skeptical movement to be critical of what's going on here. But I don't hear a lot of criticism about anything that's all that crucial. It's more like the way things are done rather than what's being done.
The people and the actual conference itself have been absolutely superb. A couple of little things, but these are little things that we can probably live with. I won't call any out now, but you can come to my blog at mycolleaguesareidiots.com and I might call them out later.
All right. But I wasn't asking you for criticism. I was just saying, what are your favourite bits been? Because, it's because as passionate as you are about whinging, you're pretty passionate about what you love as well.
That's right, yeah. I think the highlight has been today. Was it Simon Taylor? Up on the altar.
And he was explaining how you get across something in an enthusiastic way by demonstrating an enthusiastic way of getting something across.
Enthusiasm, firmness, the correct tone for the time. And that was fantastic. It was just like, make the best point you possibly can and then get it done.
Now, is there anything you can take away from this? You've already been on Media Watch. You don't need to do anything else.
Oh, well, obviously I'm a big celebrity now, big star now. Yeah. There's plenty I can take away from this. For one thing, I'm doing Skeptic Camp sometime in the next 6 months. People who were at the panel that I was on would have noticed that. I got money thrown at me from the audience, so now I'm committed. I've got to do Skeptic Camp, so watch this space. I haven't got a website for it yet, but I will.
That's some sort of Batman-based gay skeptic thing.
Yes, it's one of those. No, it's basically a day or a half day of open presentations on skepticism and activism, and pretty much anyone's free to come and talk. It'll be a kind of a mini TAM kind of a thing, I guess. The full details haven't been worked out yet, but I'm in discussion with bar camp people and US Skeptic Camp people and Canadian Skeptic Camp people, and all of these people have flooded me, and I'm just completely frazzled by it. It's great. It's brilliant.
Well, look, I think there's been a bit of inspiration come out of this, so I might go chat to a few other people, man.
Do so. Thanks, mate.
And, of course, like any good skeptic, where are you going now?
I'm going to the pub, mate. Are you going to come to the pub?
Look, I've been barred from most of them in this area, but I'll try and sneak in.
Right, good. See you there.
What have you learnt from TAM Australia while you've been here, apart from the fact that I'm not too good at making a tinfoil hat?
That the demographic of skeptics is a bit older than I had thought it would be. Like the average age, it's a bit higher than I thought it would have been.
Okay, so what you expected it to be? People in their 20s, or what did you expect it to be?
I was expecting more people in their 20s.
And you might have been expecting more women?
Yes and no. I don't know. I'm happy with the number of women here. I'm not surprised that there's not more, but it would have been nice if there were more.
And
how's that for vague?
And you weren't expecting so many beards? Was that the problem?
I think so.
Okay. Well, once you get to a certain age, like maybe growing a beard's not a bad idea. I'm thinking about it myself because it probably goes well with a tinfoil hat.
It does. There was a lady I saw on the bus last night that had quite a nice beard.
Really?
Yes.
Where are you staying? Is it somewhere near Lucas Heights or something?
No, I live in Stanmore.
Oh, okay, cool. And what's been your favourite thing here while you've been at the TAM Australia conference, apart from beard counting?
I think the astronomy talk this morning was my favourite.
What'd you learn from it?
P universes.
Wow. Well, this sounds like something someone with kids might have to work on, but no, what is it?
Universes that are green or emitting green light.
Wow.
Yes.
That's great. I was in here mucking about making this tinfoil hat, and I should have been in there. I should have done what I did at school. I should have listened.
Yes, that is an important lesson.
And what are you taking away from it, you guys? You're obviously at the convention here. What are you going to take away from it?
A lot of entertainment, finding out just how much the wider accessible group of people who are interested in these sort of things can actually directly help science. I didn't realise there was as much of that is going on as there clearly is.
What are you taking away from it? You're going to go to work or we're on Monday and go,
I want to promote causes that skeptics can really actually get behind, like because I'm a university student, actually getting people at university involved in causes like Stop the ADN and sort of taking arms against naturopaths and other such quacks. And
now, what about the more extreme ones, the difficult ones like your Scientology, the Catholic Church, extreme Islam?
Denouncing them, I think, and just generally making people more aware of how stupid they are.
Oh, look, TAM Australia, it's all a wrap now. It's all done by the shouting and the drinking and the being kicked out there. What did you make of the whole thing?
What did you think?
What? Go on.
It was wonderful.
Yeah? What was the favourite bit? What's the bit that inspired you to wear your pants?
Dr. Pamela Gay is always amazing. Love her voice and I love her positivity.
Okay, and for you, what was it like at TAM Australia?
It was awesome. It was the first time too, and very inspirational too. Stephen Novella. That was the thing for me,
Yeah. I mean, hanging around with smart people doesn't make me feel too bright myself, but that's probably more about my inadequacies than actually the event.
No, I feel the same way, but it just... I suppose from a healthcare standpoint, it kind of like, and I come from a sort of healthcare background as well, it just kind of got me thinking, so yeah, I suppose that's what it is.
And Lawrence, how did you find the whole thing, man? You are getting bigger in the skeptical field all the time.
Absolutely, next one's going to be the Amazing Lawrence Festival. This is... it is amazing, and if you
have to get a different adjective. I've gone the inconsistent Maynard. Have you given a bit of thought to it?
The swelligant. The swelligant meeting. Yeah. It has to promise a lot if you're going to have the title Amazing in the actual title of the conference.
Yeah.
And... it was. It opened a lot of minds. It's good.
And what was your favourite part of it, your favourite speaker, the most inspiring part for you?
I think all of it was quite inspiring. I missed the first day, but I enjoyed the Dick Smith, Randi chat on the second day.
Now, it's a big call Dick Smith's trying to do, isn't it? They're like about population growth. That's a big call because the political will for that, and there's not a lot, you wouldn't be many votes in it.
What was that?
The Dick Smith population growth that he's trying to get. There's almost zero population growth. That's going to be a hard one.
Yeah, it would be a hard one because people keep reproducing and we just can't stop ourselves.
Yeah, and even in China where they've enforced it in a very ugly way, still there problems.
That's right, absolutely. Well, Dick Smith is a man with opinions and, good luck to him. But, hey, I like his electronics as well.
Oh, look, all his computers probably still work. What is the one area of scepticism where you see red, where you go non-linear, as they say, when you hear about it? You can't help but butting in at a dinner party or something when someone brings something up. With some people it's anti-vaccination, with some people it's astrology. What's the one that you feel very strongly about?
What do I feel? I think it would have to be, sometimes it's psychics, sometimes it's homeopathy. Okay. Sometimes it's echinacea. Everyone says, have a bit of echinacea. It's like the wonder vitamin. It's not even a vitamin. And I like placebos as the next delusional person, and I love self-deluding myself into fitness. And echinacea, well, it's just not for me.
So if I said, "Oh man, you got to try some echinacea," how would you normally come back at me?
I'll take the whole bottle. Let's see if it really works.
Where can you turn to find others like yourself who appreciate critical thinking? You can turn to Skeptical Inquirer, the magazine that separates fact from media myth. It's published by the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. Find out what genuine science has to say about the extraordinary and the unexplained. You might be surprised. Subscribe to Skeptical Inquirer today. 1 year, 6 challenging issues for $19.99. To subscribe or just to request a free sample issue, call 1-800-634-1610 or just visit our website, psycop.org.
Now it's time for Dr. Rachie Reports with Dr. Rachel Dunlop.
Hello listeners and welcome to Dr. Rachie Reports. Well, another week has gone by here in the land down under and there is yet more good news to report, and plenty of it. Well, where to start? How about with the darling of the anti-vaccination movement, Andrew Wakefield, who took another mighty blow this week. The British Medical Journal revealed that they are to publish a series of articles by Brian Deer, alleging that Wakefield was deliberately fraudulent in his 1998 research, which began the worldwide scare that the MMR vaccine was linked to autism. An editorial in the British Medical Journal referred to that paper, as it has become known, as an elaborate fraud. And worse still, the investigation concluded that Wakefield misrepresented or altered the medical histories of the 12 children studied. The editor-in-chief of the British Medical Journal said Wakefield's work was based not on bad science, but on a deliberate fraud. But the media, it seems, are losing their patience with the anti-vaxxers. Anderson Cooper of 360 on CNN interviewed Wakefield, apparently from a vaccine conference held in Jamaica. Here's an excerpt from the interview.
Sir, according to this new report, not only did you do a study that was scientifically and ethically flawed, it was, quote, an elaborate fraud. An award-winning investigative journalist, Brian Deer, has published evidence that you, and I quote, altered numerous facts about patients' medical histories to support your claims of identifying a new syndrome, and that you also, quote, sought to exploit the scare among parents for financial gain. How do you respond?
Well, you know, I've had to put up with this man's false allegations for many, many years. I've written a book, and in
but this is not just one man. This is published in the British Medical Journal.
Yeah, no, and I have not as yet had a chance to read that, but I have read his multiple allegations on many occasions. He is a hitman. He's been brought in to take me down because they are very, very concerned about the adverse reactions to vaccines that are occurring in children.
Wait a minute, sir. Let me just stop you right there. You say he's a hitman and he's been brought in by they. Who is they? Who is he a hitman for? This is an independent journalist who's won many awards.
Yeah, he's, you know, who brought this man in? Who is paying this man? I don't know. But I do know for sure that he's not a journalist like you are.
But let's talk about some of the specifics that he is claiming. You're basically saying this is some sort of conspiracy against you. Is that your argument?
Conspiracy is your word. What this is a ruthless, pragmatic attempt to crush any investigation into valid vaccine safety concerns. Not just my concerns. I'm here at a meeting of experts on vaccines from around the world who are extremely concerned about the safety of vaccines and the damage that they believe and I believe is being done to children.
But, sir, there's no proof of that, and your study is a fraud according to this latest investigation, which has taken quite some time. And, sir, let me just continue. It's not just this one journalist who's saying this, who you believe is some sort of a hitman. It's not just pharmaceutical companies or the AMA, and it's not just public health officials from around the world, and it's not just doctors from around the world. It's also other journalists who have looked into your research and found it simply incorrect. Are you saying that they're all in conspiracy against you?
No, they haven't. In fact, they've taken his story and treated it as verbatim, treated it as true. And if you read my book, you will be able to read the truth. And has the BMJ read my book? Have the doctors who apparently looked at all the records read my book? No, because the truth is in that book.
Well, sir, I've read Brian Deer's report, which is incredibly extensive. Sir, I'm not here to let you pitch your book. I'm here to have you answer questions. Brian Deer has talked to the patient, has talked to the parents of the patients who were in your original study, and he discovered that not one of the 12 cases you claim to have studied was free of, quote, misrepresentation or alteration. In no single case could the medical records be fully reconciled with the descriptions, diagnoses, or histories published in the journal. Some of the parents in your original study say what you claimed about their kids' medical histories was not true. Are those parents now lying?
That is false. He has not interviewed the parents. That is absolutely not true.
So you're saying no parents say that what you've said about their children's medical histories is false?
No, they don't. What I have said and what has been reported in that paper by me and my colleagues is exactly what we saw.
I want to read you some of the other specifics from the report. 3 of 9 children reported with regressive autism, according to Mr. Deer, did not have autism diagnosed at all. Only 1 child clearly had regressive autism. Is that true?
No, it's not. The diagnoses are as they were in the children. I did not make the diagnosis of autism. I did not make up the diagnoses. The diagnoses were taken from the clinical records and reviewed by experts at the Royal Free Hospital School of Medicine.
According to Mr. Deer, some kids were reported to have experienced first behavioral symptoms within days of MMR, the vaccine, but the records documented these as starting some months after the vaccine.
If you read the record that I have set out in the book, you will see the truth.
But sir, if you're lying, then your book is also a lie. If your study is a lie, your book is a lie.
The book is not a lie. The study is not a lie. The findings that we made have been replicated in 5 countries around the world.
Sir, that's not true. You've been offered the chance to replicate your study, and you've never taken anybody up on that. You've had plenty of opportunity to replicate your study.
Accuse me of giving you a falsehood. I am telling you that this work has been replicated in 5 countries around the world.
Then why has it been completely discredited by public health officials around the world?
I suggest you do your investigation properly before making such allegations.
Speaking of the media losing their patience with the anti-vaxxers, a journalist in Australia today not only tossed away the book on false balance, but set it on fire and stomped on it too. In an interview about the Wakefield findings, Tracy Spicer of Radio 2UE constantly interrupted Meryl Dorey from the AVN and eventually hung up on her, declaring she would never be on the station again with her dangerous, disgusting, disgraceful information. It was one of the best interviews I've heard with Dorey, who is usually pandered to by the mainstream media in the interest of balance. Here's an excerpt from the interview.
Meryl Dorey lives in this region. She's probably the most vocal critic of vaccination in this country, and she runs the Australian Vaccination Network. And she's on the line. How are you, Meryl?
I'm good, Tracy. How are you?
Good, thanks. Surely after all this, though, you must now admit that you've based your scare campaign on fraudulent and misleading information.
Oh, Tracy, I love your language. Unfortunately, this subject is far from put to bed. And the news that came out in the British Medical Journal is not news at all. It's simply a rehashing of accusations that were made previously.
It absolutely is news, Meryl. It is discrediting and disputing the entire research upon which people have not vaccinated their children, and children have died from whooping cough and measles as a result.
Children in Australia have died from whooping cough, and we have the highest level of whooping cough vaccination we've ever had. And the majority of the people getting whooping cough are vaccinated. But
they get a lower dose of whooping cough once they've been vaccinated, yes, but it's a lower dose. But anyway, go on.
Back to Wakefield. The accusation is that Wakefield took money while he was doing an investigation on behalf of lawyers who were hoping to take a lawsuit for children who had developed regressive autism after the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. Wakefield had actually revealed that information to the Lancet prior to the article being published, and it was £50,000 that we're talking about, and the money was used to pay for tests on these children. It didn't go into his pocket. If we think that that is an unreasonable thing for Wakefield to do, why is Paul Offit in the United States, who made tens of millions of dollars selling a patent on a rotavirus vaccine for which he sat on the committee to approve that vaccine in the United States, still in a job? The fact is that vaccination and autism are linked in the minds of many researchers.
Meryl, that is an outrageous thing for you to say. You were ordered by the Australian Healthcare Complaints Commission to put a disclaimer on your website saying that there is no link, and here you are on Metropolitan Radio spreading your misinformation.
Tracy, you're wrong about that.
I'm absolutely not wrong about that, Meryl.
The Healthcare Complaints Commission asked us to put a warning on our website to let people know that we were anti-vaccination.
No. And also they found that your website contains information that is incorrect and misleading and quotes selectively from research to suggest that vaccinations are dangerous. I quote that word for word.
But you just said that they asked us to put a warning.
Yes, I did. You had your fundraising status revoked and were ordered to post a disclaimer on your website. I looked at your website this morning. There is no such disclaimer.
That's right, and we've refused to do that. And we are also appealing that decision with the Office of Liquor, Gaming and Racing.
But in the meantime, you're required to post a disclaimer on. You are spreading dangerous information that can lead to children being killed, Meryl.
Tracy, do you want to talk about Andrew Wakefield and about the measles and the fact that autism has increased by something over 2,000% since the introduction of multiple vaccinations?
Yes, Meryl, and it's coincidental. It has been proven there is no link. Autism rates continue.
Is that your professional opinion, Tracy?
Autism rates. It's my opinion after doing research and speaking to researchers. Autism rates continue to rise in Japan after the withdrawal of the MMR vaccine.
Well, I'd like to direct people to our website where
I would like you not. In fact, let's just end the interview now. Let's just end the interview. That was Meryl Dorey from the Australian Vaccination Network. If she continues to spread this misleading and deceptive information that ends up killing children, we will no longer have her on our program. We had her on our program hoping that she would finally, once and for all, after the British Medical Journal put this out this morning, retract the dangerous information she has been disseminating.
Far from retracting the dangerous information that the AVN is disseminating, Meryl has clung even tighter to the poster boy for the anti-vaxxers. When the audio made it to Twitter, there was an explosion of interest, and pretty soon, Tracy Spicer, Stop the AVN and Meryl Dorey were top trending topics in Australia. Very quickly the word spread globally, and retweets from Singh and Phil Plait appeared. And then late last night, PZ Myers also blogged the audio. Now, the old adage that all publicity is good publicity does not really apply to being ridiculed on PZ Myers' website. Meryl has responded to the interview with a blog post and also an interview in the Northern Star where she explains why, quote, she supports Andrew Wakefield 100%. I applaud his integrity, ethics and desire to help children nobody else will. Which is odd because when she was asked recently if she still supported Wakefield, she had trouble answering that question. This excerpt comes from an interview from July 2010.
Can I just ask you about the qualifications of the group, the AVN, and what they stand for? You would know, you'd know the name of a guy called Andrew Wakefield.
I do know Andrew Wakefield.
Do you guys still support him?
We support any research.
No. Do you still support him?
Do I support him? I don't give him any money, if that's what you're...
No, but verbally, you support him.
His ID.
Because he was struck off the United Kingdom Medical Register.
He was struck off the medical register.
And he's only allowed now to practice in the United States of America.
No, he doesn't practice. He's never been a practicing doctor. He's an academic, and he's still an academic. And, we know of many cases where people have been struck off because they simply didn't agree with what the medical community...
No, he failed in his duties as a responsible consultant. He acted against the interests of his patients.
No, I'm sorry. That's not what was found.
Oh, no. I'm quoting from the United Kingdom Medical Register and the reason why he was struck off.
Okay, what has this got to do with the HCCC, if I can ask?
Well, I'll tell you what it's got to do with is the fact that the AVN, you supported him in the sense that you disagreed with what the United Kingdom Medical Register did.
In her interview in the Northern Star, Meryl claimed there were dozens of peer-reviewed published articles supporting Wakefield's findings. Professor Boy from the National Centres for Immunisation Research and Surveillance described her claims as laughable. After what the BMJ revealed this week, and on top of all the other evidence against Wakefield, those who continue to cling to him succeed only in making themselves irrelevant. So finally, there was trouble in the power balance camp this week, as the ACCC story eventually hit international headlines when popular magazine Gizmodo tweeted, "Power Balance admits their wristbands are a scam." Power Balance have been laying pretty low since the ACCC findings came down on December the 22nd, quietly removing the link to the Australian store from their international website. But as the news spread and people started tweeting questions, they went into a kind of damage control, just not a very good one. Picking up on the phrase "Power Balance admits their," they tweeted a series of comments completing the sentence. For example, Power Balance admits their international fans are awesome, and Power Balance admits their products are worn by top athletes in every sport across the globe. But then Power Balance did something very strange. They tweeted, quote, "The existing reports out there are fundamentally incorrect. We did not make claims that our product doesn't perform. We stand behind our products. And then, Power Balance works, we guarantee it." Which simply opened the floodgates for satire as people began to suggest ideas as to why the magic hologram only doesn't work in Australia. Perhaps it didn't like being upside down, some suggested. But then there was more trouble for Power Balance as it was announced that a class action suit had been filed in the US. According to the popular website TMZ, the class action lawsuit filed this week in a federal court in Los Angeles alleges consumers were duped into believing the hologram-embedded band was scientifically proven to enhance balance, flexibility and strength. But on the back of the admission to the ACCC that Power Balance had, quote, no credible scientific evidence that supported the representation, the suit alleges unfair business practices and false advertising. It will be interesting to see how this plays out. Power Balance have apparently sold around 3 million units since 2007. Will this be the end of a hugely successful marketing campaign? Only time will tell. Sadly, some people are still tweeting to Power Balance to ask where they can buy their products. As the saying goes, a fool and his money are soon parted. And if you'd like to comment on this week's episode or read the transcript, please head to my blog at skepticsbook.com. And until next time, this has been Dr. Rachie Reports.
Hey Skeptic Zoners, Phil Plait from Bad Astronomy here. I've recently made a career change to supervillain, and so I have an ultimatum for you. Send me all of your Minties and Tim Tams, or else I will drop a kilometer-wide asteroid right into Sydney Harbour. Now, trust me, you don't want to have this happen, and if you don't believe me, tune into the Discovery Channel Australia on January 16th and watch Bad Universe, where I will go into loving detail about what happens when an asteroid that size smacks into the Opera House.
Well, that was fun. Thank you for downloading the Skeptic Zone. Thanks for letting me be intrusion into the regular proceedings here as well. And a huge thank you to Maynard for his amazing interviews at TAM. I know that Richard has been featuring a number of these interviews recently, and boy, Maynard was just very, very generous with his time and is a real character. A real fun character. But no, it was a real pleasure to speak with him. And be sure to check out all the links in the show that go to all the people that work so hard to do all the kind of stuff. And on a personal note, one gigantic, not one, but another huge round of thanks from me to all of my Australian brethren and sistern that made my experience in Australia so incredibly fun and just, I know the word is used, but boy, it was amazing. Okay, look out soon for the Skeptic Zone email newsletter. Yes, all the zone information you could possibly stand sent directly to your inbox. Don't forget, I have a little program called the Geologic Podcast, which is at geologicpodcast.com. But for now, this is George Hrab, signing off from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.
Skeptic Zone,